So this is the video I've been wanting to record for a very, very long time. I've gotten into this conversation many times with friends, with family, my husband, neighbors who are probably sick of me by now. But now's the time to share. So, as many of you might know, I am a registered nurse. I graduated nursing school in 2016 and immediately got a job as a bedside nurse working medical, surgical, orthopedics. And my desire to become a nurse started, or I should say my path into deciding I wanted to be a nurse was quite interesting. In 2007, my mom had a surgery as a result of an injury, and her recovery was very complicated. And I remember the nurses really going above and beyond to take care of my mom. And I was like, wow, like these are some powerful people, and they just have all this desire to care for other people. You know, it really inspired me. And then for a little while in my life, I took up horseback riding. And there's just this day where I ended up saying to myself, you know, I like a challenge in life. And then right then and there, for some reason, it clicked. I'm going to go to school to become a nurse. And now, you know, hindsight, you know, and being in the phase of life that I am now is, you know, everything happens for a reason, and the universe guides us down paths. And there are times where we don't know why we're going down a path, and then it doesn't become clear and apparent for a while, in some cases. So, you know, let's fast forward a little bit. I get a job as a PCT or CNA, some people might know them, at a hospital. And that further just sealed this desire to become a nurse, because at that time, everything for me was when a patient needed something, you know, I'm in pain. Everything was, I'll go get your nurse. I'll go get your nurse. You know, as a patient care technician, as a CNA, your scope of what you can do for people is limited from a technical standpoint. I mean, you can't put value on having therapeutic conversation, but physically, like, I couldn't go get the pain meds to give the patient. I couldn't do a lot of things that I knew would help, but I had to go find somebody else. So fast forward, I decided to go to nursing school, graduated in 2016, started working immediately in post-surgical patients, medical patients. And I remember saying to myself, wow, this job is very hard, but I really like it and I'm really good at it. The really good at it part took a while to get to, because we all have our own inner voices that, you know, causes us to doubt our ability to do certain things. But for me, it truly felt like that's where I needed to be at the time. And then I reached this point of really just asking myself if there is this certain level of intervention that we do in the medical field that actually causes more harm than good. Now, before, I don't know if anyone will get all bent out of shape over it, and if you do, I can't help that, but I do want to say Western medicine has its place and it saves lives. And there's this foundation in medicine where it's preventative care is essential to maintaining your health, you know, seeing your doctor, getting, you know, for your physical once a year, getting your blood work done, eating healthy, working out, lowering your stress. But usually there's this point upon where it stops and the support is gone. And if it's not from what we learned in a textbook, for a lot of medical professionals, it's harder for us to think outside of that box. And the pivotal moment for me was when I started seeing a specific population of patients that were coming into the hospital with these illnesses and these symptoms, and they'd run tests and there'd be nothing there. And over time, eventually, with symptoms, as many nurses would know, if you spend a whole year not eating and drinking anything and constantly vomiting up what you do eat and drink, at some point in time, it's going to cause other issues. Domino effect, you know? So I would see these patients that would come in that would have these laundry list of medical diagnoses and on, you know, a ton of prescribed medications. And I would say to myself, well, but what was the cause of all this? There was nothing on their CAT scan. There was nothing on their MRI. They did a surgery and they still found nothing, but obviously something is going on. And it truly led me down this path to ask, what is the underlying symptom if you're not finding anything to start with? And then my own personal journey kind of led into this more holistic route as well. And there was a point in time where I was like, oh no, there was like this pivotal turn for me as to, nope, this is when I started to become holistic. But then when I reflected back on my childhood and my upbringing, a lot of times when we were sick as kids, you know, it took a lot for our parents to take us to a doctor. And it wasn't that they didn't believe in doctors. It was that a lot of our illnesses were, they knew that they were viral. They knew you needed rest and you needed fluids, and that's what we did. And it would be when it got to a point where, okay, what we're doing at home isn't working, let's go call the doctor. The funny thing about that, and there might be some other people out there who can also relate to this, is by the time we would get to the doctor, we would feel better. And there was this part of feeling kind of silly for sitting there and saying, and you're like, I was sick and I felt horrible and I did vomit and I did have diarrhea, but I feel fine now. And there's nothing the doctor can do for you at the point in time, because at that point in time, you're over whatever it is that made you sick. They are telling you, okay, well, if anything changes, call us back. And anybody that knows, if you're going to your doctor, it can be very hard to get a sick appointment the same day, unless it's something really serious. I think they've gotten better with that. But I remember waiting like a solid 24-ish plus hours before we would even get an appointment, where my mom would wait by the phone all day, waiting for the office to call back when they had an availability or a cancellation. But I always thought about my mom making things like, you know, chicken soup and broth. And my mom used to make this ginger tea. And I remember as a kid, I would sort of cringe at this tea. It was this potent ginger tea. It was spicy as hell. But for some reason it worked. And I didn't understand as a kid. We drank, you know, I drank the best I could. And it just, you know, that's what we did. We rested. We had saltine crackers. We, you know, at the time probably drank Gatorade and had my mom's, you know, chicken broth that she made from scratch, and this tea that we hated as kids that now I love ginger tea. I'll juice ginger and drink it now. But now that I'm a mom and I'm an experienced nurse, you know, I'm seeing how in some cases what we're doing is we're masking symptoms. We're not actually treating the underlying cause, right? Or we're treating a symptom. We're not going deeper into what it is. And we're not teaching people how to take back control of their health. Plant medicine is the original medicine. A lot of our pharmaceuticals are derived from plants. You know, they study these plants. They find these, you know, components of the plant, these molecules and things like that. And then they isolate them and then create them synthetically and then put them in a pill form and sell them through the pharmacy. And you can only get them with a doctor's prescription. And thankfully we have this knowledge and this resource, right? Because a lot of us who are involved in plant medicine and herbalism understand that there are certain plants in certain amounts that are toxic, and not safe. So it's good to have resources like pharmaceuticals when they're needed. But what's even better is this opportunity to bridge traditional herbalism and holistic care with Western medicine. And I have this really strong core belief that if we educate people and we make certain things more readily available, people will have better health outcomes. And not just physical health, but mental health outcomes. We experience traumas. We inherit traumas. And a lot of times it will manifest in symptoms physically. And there are times where it's our trauma to carry, and there's times where it's not. It's something that actually did happen to us, And there are times where it's something that might have happened to our mom and grandmother and great grandmother that's passed down from, and then you're wondering, like, why do I constantly have this fear of doing this? Like, I don't know why. So going down my own healing journey and experiencing support from a holistic practitioner and talking about the mind and your thoughts and awareness and spirituality and tying in plants and my own desire to utilize plants for my own family to keep my family healthy really shifted me to want to help people in a different way. So I've moved into utilizing my clinical knowledge as a registered nurse, understanding pharmacology and, how medications work, understanding chronic illnesses and, their pathophysiology and how we can help support people with plant medicine and in collaboration with providers. This is not a circumstance of one is better than the other. This is a circumstance of how can we blend these two things together to support people. The other thing is we have to encourage people to understand that healing happens by choice. You have the biggest role to play in your health and in your wellness. It's not somebody else's responsibility to take care of you and make you better. That is something you have to desire on your own and do your research. Our doctors are phenomenal and they do wonderful things. Absolutely wonderful. I have doctors in my family. I've worked closely with wonderful doctors and nurse practitioners and PAs, and they are wonderful and smart people. But one thing I will point to is, and something that I will challenge providers to look into is, are you thinking outside the box more than what you were taught in medical school, more than what was between that book that they handed you and told you to read and they were going to test you on it, more than what you saw in residency? Same thing with nurses. We're trained to pass a test, right? And you want the best of the best. If I'm sick and I'm lying in a hospital bed, I want the best nurse there is. I want the best doctor there is. There's no doubt about that. I want to know. My life is in your hands. I want to know that you are good at your job. Same thing. When my pipe breaks, I want the best plumber. When my electrical is out of whack in my home, I want the best electrician because I don't want to wake up to my house burning down. Same thing when it comes to my health. I want the best, and you should too. So how can we shift our mindset to this? And this was my question. This is what was my desire, to blend something that I chose to pursue with this innate knowledge that I have of blending nature, the elements, and plants to help people down their wellness journey. Because I've used them and I've seen how it can help. And there's so much nuance in all this, because it's not just I have a cold and I'm going to buy over-the-counter cough syrup, or I'm going to make my own cough syrup. It's more than that. It's settling into discomfort to learn something new about yourself. It's becoming aware of your thoughts and your actions and how that influences how you show up for yourself and for other people. It's so much more complicated and gray. And there's so much we can do to help people besides the one time a year we see our doctor and a basic panel of blood work and okay, we'll see you next year, and you're reached this age and now you're due for your colonoscopy, or you're due for your mammogram, I'm not saying those things are not important, but are we talking about what are you eating on a day-to-day basis? Are you sleeping? Are you drinking enough water? That thing that happened to you when you were 5 or 16 or 23 is storing itself in you and causing you that pain in your back. or that tension in your neck, or that anxiety when you get in your car and you drive down the highway. So we've got to learn to blend these things together and create a way for people to address all aspects of their health, not just the symptoms. Because a lot of times that's what we're doing. Hey doc, I have a hard time sleeping. Okay, here's a pill. Not, are you on your phone before bed? Are you stressed out at work? How many jobs are you working? And again, it's a multi-layered thing, because people are experiencing their life in different ways than others. You've got single parents that are working more than one job. You've got couples that are balancing, their children's different life stages on top of taking care of sick parents. You've got a wife who just found out her husband has cancer and now has to go through medical treatment, and they have a loss of income. There are very real circumstances out there that cause stress to people. But where holistic wellness and coaching and support comes in is walking that path with you to give you the strength to help you build that strength. Truly. So I might have gone on a little bit of a rant, and I know that, it can be hard for some people. By no means am I saying if you're on pills, stop your pills tomorrow. Please don't do that. Find help. Ask your doctor questions. Find somebody who will support you in that. There are people out there. Determine what is of importance to you. What is of value to you? If your health is the most important thing, your wellness, for you, for your spouse, and for your children, can you really put a monetary dollar on that? So then you go and you find the help where you can, and you do the best you can. You read the books that you can. You look for sources online. You find who can help you. There's more out there than I think people realize. So yes, so this is my shift. I'm still a nurse. I will always be a nurse. I love working as a nurse. It is one of the most stressful jobs. I will say being a parent is the hardest job. And a nurse probably after that. Being a parent and a nurse at the same time, that's something else. But ultimately, I do enjoy what I do. But now I'm choosing to do it in a way that's more in alignment with what I believe. And again, it's not to say that there might be a day where I may need the hospital, and that's fine. I am not against it at all. It has a place. It absolutely has a place, and it saves lives. Plant medicine, spiritual support, therapy, teaching self-love and ritual. Finding you again also helps, and it works. So that's it for me. So if any of this really truly you felt it to your core, and you're like, I'm there too. If you have been looking for someone to help you down and guide you down your journey, go to my website and book a free 30-minute discovery call, and let's see what happens. I'm here, and I'm willing to walk that journey with you.